what kind of, and maybe I'm just, oh, go. Let me ask you a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Sam. It's really very exciting, and everyone is really like excited to know that you have a balanced, like you have a balanced life, right? It's like successful, you're successfully married. So like a doctor, you have like three sons and grandchildren, as well as being like the first woman leader in different spheres in life, right? So can you give us like scenarios whereby you had to make a choice? How did you handle that, right? Probably like you had an assignment at home as well as an assignment from work, right? It's like, how did you handle that? Like, what were the some tips? How did you handle that? And when did you have to say no as well, right? To work, right? Yeah, just share more light, like more life scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's sometimes that are more demanding than others, and sometimes that are more critical than others. And so I think the way that I differentiated it sometimes by, was the sky going to fall if I didn't do this work thing? Or could someone else help me with that? Like I can remember one time that, the CEO of the company came in and goes, Olivia, we have to go to Germany this afternoon. And I go, I have 3 kids at home. You're giving me 6-hour notice and we're going to be in Germany for a week. He goes, but we have to. This deal's going to fall through if we don't get there. We got to be on a plane this afternoon. And it was true. What he said was true. But I always had sort of backup plans. My parents lived in, 100 miles away, so I knew I could call on them. I had, friends where I lived, etc. And I actually did that. I was on a plane to Germany that afternoon. But I had the support that I needed in order to be able to do that. Not everyone has that. So I know how blessed I was to be able to call upon people, but I worked hard and kind of knowing what my backup plans were. Now, not everyone's going to, have a situation where someone comes in the morning and expects you to be on a plane in the afternoon. But the thing about the company I worked for when that happened, I went there intentionally because they were family friendly. And 20, 30, 40 years ago, not every company was family friendly. They expected you to give your life and soul, so to speak, to the company. And so when my husband finished his residency, I knew that something had to give with the very demanding career that I had and the very demanding obligations that he had. And I had a former client, and I knew the culture of the company, and I knew that they really encouraged you to be home in time for dinner with your family. But there would be situations and times when, they would have to ask something of you that was going to be hard. And so I was willing to accept that, but I had set myself up to have most of the time within my control. Some of the time, just things happen. So, knowing that I couldn't have it 100% ideal, I had to decide what I could accept and didn't accept. But I changed jobs in order to create that situation because that was a priority for me. And you have to decide what your priorities are, what's important to you, what's important to what you've committed to. Part of what I'd committed to was a family and children. And every year was a decision. There's nothing you're doing today that you can't change tomorrow if it's not serving your life well and serving those you love well and being healthy for your priorities. And so, that was something that was never off the table completely. It was always something sort of in the back of my mind, not something I had to do next week or next month, but is it something I should plan for next year or 2 or 3 years from now?
Yeah, it seems like sorry?
No, I was just saying, I hope that answered her question. I could go on and on about work-life balance because I've seen it work well, and I've seen people who have let work totally take them over. And none of us are indispensable in our work life, but in our home, in our family, and in our, in our faith walk, that's where we have ultimate obligations and importance.
Yeah, priorities are super important, and I can see that in the chat too. Everyone is talking about priorities. Seems like you are very intentional about what your priorities are, what your backup plan was, and knowing that you were going to have to juggle a lot of things, you actually put a lot of thought. Some people just wait till when it hits them and then they start to scramble and look for the plan. But thanks for sharing those tips. Joshua,
can I just say one other thing? It's not the work is not always the negative. My boys, now older, all in their own careers, have said to me many times, and I've witnessed it, how much they benefited from what I did in life outside of the home. People they met, things they got exposed to, the travel they did. So you really, it can't be a myopic view that work is the enemy of the family. It's not. They get to see, what you do and who you interact with, the opportunities you have. It's very it's an education in and of itself for them. My children have traveled all over the world with me. They have seen, my middle son went to Kenya for a month with us on a mission trip and worked in a hospital and got to scrub with his dad, and that was his profession, and put in a new inventory system for the Cure Hospital there. And, they have met and they have seen, they understand that the world is bigger and that not everyone thinks like them, not everyone believes like them. And it helps them truly appreciate what they have and potentially what impact they might have.
Yeah, prior to now, it seemed like I always had the mindset of work-life balance. Like I have to keep work away from family. But what I'm hearing from you is work-life integration, bringing in your family into work and work into your family and making everything just seamlessly aligned. Work doesn't have to be an enemy of family. That's the theme that I'm hearing, and that's awesome. A lot of women have had to sacrifice their careers, and some men also, just because they want to dedicate their attention to family. And looks like there's a way to make it work, and there's a way to have everything work-life. This is a lot. Thank you for sharing. Josh is interested. Josh, please speak up. You have some questions.
Hi, Olivia. Thank you for being here once again. We've heard so many amazing things today already. But one thing that struck me was, you said you have a Bible study. You've had a Bible study group for 30 years. It's the same, consistent Bible study for 30 years. So I just want to know, you would leave the Bible study with scriptures, with principles. What are the core principles, biblical principles that has seen you through your career journey and balancing everything in life? And what are the scriptures that keep you going when you're down?
Yeah. I guess the guiding light is doing the right thing. And how do you decide what the right thing is? Well, the right thing, hopefully, is what you've studied and believed your entire life through study of the scriptures. And I think it's important to stay in the scriptures. Why I maintain my Bible study group, which, I'll give you an example. Yesterday evening, one of my Bible study group members' daughter is someone that I mentor. And so we all support each other in many ways. But I visited with her daughter yesterday for 3 hours, and she is an amazing young lady. And, she's asking a lot of these same questions, and she's just become the owner of Ebony and Jet. And people who don't know in this country what that is, that's the primary publication that celebrates people who are African American. And it's a major undertaking for her, and she has a new baby, and she has a family, and she's trying to balance all of this stuff too. But we talked a lot about the fact that you really do have to stay grounded in the scriptures. And I guess, when I always think of the in Galatians, where it talks about the fruits of the Spirit and what those are, love, kindness, patience, self-control, faithfulness, etc., and how you treat people. There's a song we sing in our American churches that they will know you by your love. And that's sort of based on that too. And so I think that all of that has guided me in how I treat people, and what I know is required of me as an individual to respect and value all people, and to try to be encouraging and supportive. And it's not about me, it's about everyone. And having a Bible study group and a support group that, they're in all walks of life too. Some are stay at home, some work, some are, we're across the whole social economic group, or a diverse group, or of different nationalities. And so I just think that kind of brings me, I always tell them that that's my oasis. That is my fresh drink of water each week. That is, I look forward to that more than anything else. I mean, these are my soulmates, and they are my encouragers, and they, it's just really important. It's so easy to get away from that because you have so many other things to do, but that's probably the most important thing you can do. There's a book out there that's entitled "Too Busy Not to Pray." And I think it's, you're too busy not to stay connected to your faith and your church family, because it continually reinforces what's really important. Now, do you want to have an impact, and do you want to have work, and do you want to have a career, and do you want to progress, and do you want to be successful? Yes. But do you want to do that at the expense of what's really important in life? Absolutely not. But it is possible to do both. But you have to work at it really, really hard. It's not something that, just happens. You have to be intentional. Sam used the word earlier, being intentional. You really have to be intentional about it. And you have to put it on your calendar like you put other things on your calendar, and not let the many crowd out the needed. You just have to do that. Now, have I always been great at that? Have I always been perfect at that? Absolutely not. I mean, there are none of us that always do it well, but it's always a goal and an objective to do it well. And I think having a faith-based friendship group kind of helps you focus on that. And you kind of have those aha moments, like, I've sort of let it get out of control the last 3 or 4 weeks or month or whatever it is. And this is what's really important.
If you don't mind me sharing. So we all obviously joined the call prior to when the meeting started. And I was really impressed by the fact that you said some members of your Bible study group are actually praying for you right now for this program to go so well. So that's also showing how you integrate like your biblical background into whatever you do. And I think that's very encouraging, just because recently it came out in the news that especially in Silicon Valley, purpose is growing, but religious affiliation is on the decline. And I feel like that doesn't have to be the case. You don't have to lose God on your way to the top. You can actually have a dedicated group of friends and people who you can share scriptures with, share principles with, and share life with. And it looks like you're doing that really well. Thanks for sharing. It's good to have a strong Christian support. Just quickly, just moving on to another topic. I know you've been to Nigeria, you've been to China, and we would eventually get back to maybe sharing some of the experiences that you've had. But prior to that, I want us to roll the curtain back 50 years ago. You probably like your teenage years or your early 20s. What was your dream back then? How did you navigate? Oh my God, I just graduated from college. What do I do? How did you lead yourself? What were the things that you were thinking about back then, and are they aligned with what you see today?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I started working outside the home at age 14, and my parents were very keen that we all get a good education. I have 2 siblings, and that family was extremely important, very strong family. My mother was one of 9 children. And so I think my future family was important to me, who I was going to fall in love with and who I was going to marry and all of that. Beyond that, I think that, I just wanted to make a difference in the world and to contribute. Maybe that's a better word. I wanted to be a good contributor to the world and to feel like that I made a difference in some way. I don't think that I necessarily had ambitions beyond that. I didn't know how I was going to contribute. I knew that I wanted to get education. I knew that I wanted to be competent at something. I knew that, I wanted to achieve. I always wanted to be out in front leading. I'll just confess to that. That's just how, when I was 15 or 16, this female was running a crew of all men, out on a farm in a field. They listened to me. I don't know why they listened to me, but they listened to me. And so I think I gained a lot of confidence along the way, and that if you were willing to step up and you were willing to invest your time and you were willing to encourage others and to help them be the best that they could be, that you could contribute. And then I think, God just put opportunities in front of me, and it was up to me to say yes or no. I've looked back many times and gone, I could have missed this if I hadn't been willing to step forward. I mean, I think of the example of, you've mentioned going to China. I had to go negotiate with the Chinese government to buy a plant over there. they were shocked when I stepped off the boat, and it literally was a boat because it was the only way you could get to this location. You know, they just looked at me like, what do we do with this? I didn't even blink. You know, I was the only person there. I was the only person they could negotiate with. What were they going to do about it? They were either going to deal with me or not, you know, and if they didn't, they didn't. If they did, they did, and life would go on. But we did it. And, you know, I recall in 2014, I was in Italy, and we were having a World Congress for Accountants. I think this is no exaggeration. There were 700 Nigerians there with me. They loved the World Congress, and they were there in mass. And the Pope invited us to a private audience to talk about the impact that the accounting profession should and could have on corruption within government sometimes, as far as money is concerned, and greater accountability, and how that was impacting the quality of lives of people across the world. And so I had an opportunity to give a speech in front of the Pope, but I had to do it in Italian, and I didn't speak Italian. And I had to learn in 3 days how to do this. But if I hadn't done it, I would have missed that opportunity. And he and I had a great rapport. And I think, you know, over the next year or two, we made an impact. But that, you know, that's something you have to be willing to kind of step up and take the risk of failing, or someone laughing at you, because half of the audience spoke Italian, and it was pretty obvious that was not my first, second, third, or fourth language. You know, but you do it. And I think that there is, you know, there's this bias for perfection, and to know everything you need to know before you say that you'll do something. And I think it really needs to be more like, you know, do I have a background and experience that could be useful here? Can I make a difference? Can I have an impact? Can I help others achieve their goals? Can I, you know, provide an example of what might be possible, and encourage others, and truly make a difference and help everyone achieve the goals that have been set out there, and, you know, move forward. And so I think that, you know, that's sort of been my guiding light, is to try to do things that are outside my comfort zone, but I know I'll get through them. You know, I was talking with this young lady I was with last night. She was talking about how she'd gone and was speaking at a conference, and you know, that she just had this baby and she wasn't as prepared as she wanted to be, et cetera. And I said, well, my philosophy is I'll go, I'll do it, and I hope by God's grace I'll come home and I'll still be alive. You know, not everything can you be 100% prepared for. And by taking risk, you really do have some experiences and some opportunities that were laid out before you, and you really just would have missed.
Now, this is interesting. Like, taking advantage of opportunities is something that a lot of people miss out on, just because they're scared. There's the imposter syndrome. Oh my God, what if people find out? But the fact that you decided to learn Italian and give a speech to the Pope in front of a large audience in 3 days, that is mind-blowing. Oh my God. Have you ever had to deal with imposter syndrome? You seem to be very confident, and I guess you said from your family you were in charge. Everyone was listening to you. But have you ever had to deal with, oh my God, is everyone going to listen to me? Have you had imposter syndrome issues in the past, and how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think everyone does. Everyone has their own self-doubts, right? Okay. And am I good enough? And, you know, I said yes, but I'm probably not the right person for it, or I'm not everything that they think that I am. But I think being realistic with yourself and not pretending that you're more than you are, and being just totally honest about it, is a very freeing thing. And I think that can help you be more comfortable with it. People really love when you're self-deprecating in a way, where you tell them all, what your weaknesses are. That should not be viewed as a weakness. That's just honesty. We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, and we don't have to be down on ourselves, and we don't have to brag about what we're really good at. But, we can recognize that God gave us all different talents. And it takes all of us working together. It's why we have arms and legs and eyes and ears, and it takes all of those parts working together. And so to embrace that, rather than thinking you have to be everything, is, and I truly believe in the power of the question, asking better questions. And I think that demonstrates you don't have all the answers, because you don't. But you get to better decisions, and you get to better outcomes if you can ask really good and insightful questions, and help other people, inspire thought and contributions from other people. And so I think that kind of overcomes that imposter syndrome too, because you do it in a positive way. How do you ask, how do you think about this? Or what do you think the best approach would be for this? Or what experiences have you had? Or what lessons learned have you had that might help us in this situation? People love to contribute. They don't want you to know everything. They don't respect you if you come across with that persona. Can you be trusted if you think you know everything? Can we contribute if someone has all the answers? And so I think being vulnerable is very key. Being willing to be vulnerable is not looked down upon, is actually respected.
No, being vulnerable definitely helps, and asking the right questions. I like the way you put it, that when no one wants you to have all the answers, because then they also cannot shine. Knowing how to make them answer the questions and let them shine is definitely a very good thing. I want to quickly switch to some of the questions that we have in the Q&A. Someone asked, out of curiosity, how many hours do you spend on average for your personal time, sleeping and all of that? It's just
it depends on the day, actually. So I'm in a different phase of life now. So my primary work now is serving on public company boards. And so, I'm sort of on call every day, because you never know what's going to pop up. I mean, not to bring up current situations, but the war in Ukraine has been challenging all the way around for public companies. One board I'm on is a bank. And so, all the sanctions there and everything we've been dealing with. And there's a lot of pressure for companies to withdraw from Russia. And what is the right thing to do? Because you have the human side of that, and you have the people, and then you have the politics, et cetera. So, these past few weeks have been much busier, but my normal day is I try to put boundaries on that. And I try not to wake up at 2 a.m. and check my email. That's a challenge sometimes, but sometimes I do. I'm going to confess, and Sometimes I forget to turn off the ding for my text messages, which can be coming, because of what I've done in the past, are coming from all time zones. So, I know you guys deal with that too, but I think you just have to set those boundaries. And so my normal day would be, 7 in the morning. I tried to shut it down no later than 6 or 7 in the evening, depending on what's going on. But that doesn't say that I wouldn't take a break during the day to do something else. Back in my day with children, etc., I was not apologetic in any way that I wanted to go to a school event or, take someone to a ball game, but I compensated for that in other ways. I had a plan. It wasn't just a one-way street on that. I had a plan of how everything would still get done, and I could support and do the things that I should be doing. So the short answer to that is there's no set schedule. You know what it is in front of you that you have to do. You know that you can't do everything, so you have to know what to accept and not accept, and what to offload, and when to say I have too much and I need help. But trying to make sure that it doesn't, particularly with all the devices that we have, and when you feel like you're on 24 hours a day, you just do have to put some boundaries and be disciplined about that.
Yeah, and I guess you probably touched on this already, but someone is asking, how do you manage the lots of hats that you wear? You're on different company boards, and you have church, you have family. Do you have any extra tips on how you manage the different hats that you wear?
I love all the different hats. That is the richness of life for me. I've always had a lot of different hats, and some people deal with that better than others. But I thrive on that. And part of that is because I get to interact with so many different people by wearing different hats. And it just adds truly to the enjoyment and the richness of life, because not everything is this one focus, this one project, this one business. What I contribute in one area is consistently enhanced by what I've participated in another area, by someone I've met, by something I've learned, by new information, by a connection I can make, who I get to meet. That multiplicity for me has been extremely enriching, and I think it's provided a lot of opportunities. Someone I met 5 years ago, let's say, comes back around and has something that they want for me to be involved in, et cetera. And I think that's one of the reasons I've had some of the opportunities I've had, is because of those many hats. But I've had good support at home. I have a husband that tolerates all of this, number one. And I have children who love every minute of it, even though, from time to, but we've created memories and opportunities for them in their mind that all of those many hats contributed to.
Interesting. Someone is asking, what would you say is your biggest inspiration as a leader? And do you have mentors, or did you have mentors, or do you still have mentors? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I had a lot of mentors, that always didn't look like me or do the same things, but taught me values and taught me work ethic and taught me to do the right thing and to care for other people and to always do my best and to honor my word and to not turn a blind eye and to be courageous. And, that would start with my parents. And, they were loving, demanding, fair, all of those adjectives that you would want them to be that sometimes you didn't view as loving or fair or, but they taught me how to be accountable. I had a champion and a mentor and that managing partner of EY that took a chance on me and hired me. I mean, and, I even went in after a year. I was on an engagement where I didn't feel like the person I was working with was doing the right thing according to our ethics and standards. And I went in and I said, I can't do this if I have to work in this environment. I know how important my job is to me, but I have to be, I can't do things that I'm uncomfortable with and that I know are wrong. And, he had enough faith in me to support me and to make a change. And I wasn't trying to get anyone fired. I just knew that I had to be true to myself in all of that. And so he was a great mentor to me because it demonstrated the doing the right thing and being courageous, that you would be supported. But, most of my mentors, quite frankly, for many, many years were men. Because there weren't women out there. And I'm delighted to say now I have had several who are women. And hopefully I can be that for other people.
Now, this is good. There's actually an attendee that I would like to unmute. Ayoluwa Adeloye. The person has a question about the work that you've done in Africa, and especially Nigeria. The host, can you help unmute Ayoluwa to ask your question?
There's someone that's going to ask a question?
Yeah. I just want a question to ask it live. Are we able to unmute the person? All right, we'll just move on then. But the question is, considering that Nigeria can sometimes be very tricky to navigate and work with people, how would you describe your experience working with bank directors and whatnot? What were the things that you learned? How did you navigate working with people at the top in Nigeria? Because we as youths, we don't get to see them or really interact with them. But what would you say was your experience like?
My experience has always been extremely positive.
Right.
My first work with Nigerians was with the directors of your banks. And you have something called the Financial Institute Training Center. And they brought together directors from all of your banks in Nigeria. And with the goal, they were wanting to learn best practices for stronger oversight and governance. And I found them to be extremely inquisitive and desirable to understand how to better do that. Their techniques, the US has grown up over a period of time, and hopefully we're doing it better and better. And so I think my first interaction was in 2008. And then I came back together with them in 2012, and with the regulators too in the room. And it was remarkable, the progress that had been made over those 4 years, and the difference in the background and experience of the directors that had changed over time. And so in that first meeting, we had talked about having the right people around the table and how you thought about doing that. And they actually went and did it and have continued to do that. So very positive experience. My other personal experience there is working with the accounting profession and the adoption of international standards in order to attract more economic growth and investment in the country. And you have more than one accounting organization in Nigeria. And I've met many times with those leaders. I've been in country and actually spoke alongside your vice president in Nigeria to 2,000 or 3,000 people, a lot of people. And when I was there for that, when I was staying, I tend to be. It's interesting when you come from one environment and go to the other. They were concerned for my safety because I didn't look like everyone else. So I got a lot of lectures on how I couldn't trust everyone. But that's okay. They were trying to take care of me. But it was just wonderful. And they also have a women's accounting organization that I got to interact with. And they had many of the questions like we're talking about today. And that was just extremely inspiring to me. And so one of the goals of this international organization that I led is to try to provide support and maturity and ethical behavior and accountability for the entire accounting profession throughout the world to strengthen economies and to provide growth opportunities. And so I think that Nigeria is, very much engaged and has a lot of initiatives going on to do that for the accounting profession within Nigeria. My husband's experience was totally different. He was operating on young ladies from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, all throughout the northern part of Nigeria. He stayed there for a month and operated 28 days and primarily on young ladies who had been injured during childbirth, trying to repair their bodies and give their life back to them, their dignity. And I think he found that to be fabulous.
Yeah, the northern part of Nigeria is considered dangerous, and the fact that your husband was willing to go there and do that, that's incredible. Help us thank him, because I'm sure he did a lot of great work. Quick question from the audience. What do you do when you aren't getting the opportunities you deserve, either in getting your foot in the door or getting the promotion that you think you deserve? How do you navigate? What recommendations do you have for such person?
Yeah, that's always difficult because we never know what all went into the decision that was made. If that is a pattern of behavior, then I think it's a problem. And maybe the culture of the organization that you're with is not one that's conducive for your work to be rewarded. And I think that it's your responsibility then, rather than to be resentful of that, is to go look for an opportunity elsewhere. Because you can't, there's some things you just can't overcome. And there are some biases that you're not going to change. And it doesn't matter how good you are or how competent you are. And so being responsible for either remaining in or looking for a different environment to work in, I think is every individual's responsibility. I was fortunate that I never really ran into that. But like I said, you heard me say that I picked where I worked very carefully too. And also even in my board work, I've had a lot of opportunity to join boards because they wanted a woman. But I wasn't going to be, their poster child. I had to be convinced that they wanted the value that I could bring and the experience that I could bring, and that my voice would be respected and that I could actually make a difference. I didn't need any board badly enough not to require all of that. So whenever I would be asked to interview and potentially join a board, I was interviewing them as much as they were interviewing me. They may not have known it, but I did turn down several opportunities. And I wanted to, it's my time. It's, it's a resource that I have, and to use that resource in a way that it's not appreciate or value or have any impact is really being wasteful with that resource from my point of view. And so I think you just have to step back and say, okay, once, if I'm overlooked, maybe I don't know all the rationale behind it, but twice, 3 times, I need to find a place where I can contribute and make a difference.
Oh, man, there's still so many questions coming in, but we have to wrap up soon. I guess we'll just take like 2 or 3 more questions. Someone is asking, was there a precise moment or point when you made a consciously decisive decision to become excellent in your field of work, or was it something you had to just commit to every day that kept you going consistently? So just to just package the question, did you get to a point in your career that you remember vividly that you said, I have to make a conscious decision about my career, or was it something that you were just used to from age 14 when you started in the world of work?
Well, I do think I always wanted to do my best. I think that was expected of me growing up, that, as long as you do your best, then you should look that you are, that's enough to do your best. But, you have to stretch yourself to do that. I don't know that I ever set my goals on being like the top person for the global accounting profession. But, when that opportunity was offered to me, it was really kind of interesting. I always tried to be excellent at everything that I did. I always wanted, I'm a constant learner. I read a lot because I want to see what's going on elsewhere. And it generates new ideas. It brings new insights. It helps me think about how we might do things differently to improve things, or, how we keep up with transformation and digitalization and stay ahead of the curve a little bit. So I think that that's ingrained in me. I think at each point along the way, when I was given some of these other opportunities, I really had to do a lot of soul searching about the impact it would have on my family. I've been in 60 countries. You just count that up over time and what impact that has. But it's always been a team effort. I didn't make any of these decisions by myself. My family, sometimes even my parents, even when I was married and away from home and had, my own family, we had to be in this together and committed to it together and understand what both the opportunity and the sacrifices would be, and the impact on each individual. And I think that's really important, that none of us stand on an island if we have a family, and it will have the ripple effect, and it will impact others that you love and care for and have responsibility for. Your personal family, your church family, your friends, your relationships, all of that. And so you want all of that to be healthy and intact as you go through whatever you've agreed to do. And you want it to be there waiting for you when you get to the other side too. But you also have to look at what potentially you can accomplish or make a difference, or, you know, can provide an example or whatever if you do take the opportunity. And so for everyone to have that same understanding and be willing to support and buy into it, I think, you know, goes a long way in making sure that you can kind of keep everything balanced a little bit. But I if I took on the opportunity, I want my commitment is that I would do my best to be excellent. I would do my best to be an example. I would do my best to, by that example, allow others to have opportunities as a result of people watching how I led and what I did, not for my sake or for my recognition, but so others would have similar opportunities.
And you're very big on opportunities for other people, and that's something that I really appreciated. So Fee was the one that told me of how you walked up to her and engaged her, and as you've obviously given us all this opportunity to be able to connect with you. I guess one question that I have is, how would you recommend that we connect to mentors, people like you? You have a different approach. You reach out and you try to maintain that relationship, but some other people don't do that. What are the ways you recommend that we can reach out to mentors and establish this kind of relationship?
Well, you know, Fian had to reach back to me. You know, I said, you know, here's my phone number. Call me anytime if you have any questions. But she could have chosen not to do that. And I think often we don't take advantage or reach back the other way. I think one of the things that probably was the most valuable thing in my life was not only what I did inside the workplace, but being involved in the community and doing volunteer work and meeting other people. And mentors will show up in the strangest places when you least suspect it or expect it. And so I think often people look for a mentor within their four walls of their workspace. And often they come from places other than that. But you have to be out there and meet people and try to build relationships and connections and follow up. Because I think sometimes we think, oh, well, they wouldn't want to hear from me. They're too important, or, you'd be surprised. I think most people have it built in them that they really want to help others and they want to share the experiences that they've been blessed to have. And that there's a lot more willingness out there to provide that. If you can, if they understand what it is, it would be helpful. But you sort of have to figure that out for yourself too. It can't just be that this mentor knows everything to do. The mentoring relationship to be effective is to figure out what you would need, what would be most helpful to you. And the mentor doesn't know that unless you tell them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Follow up. That's really critical. Joshua, I know you have one question, and then I'll go Fee, and then we wrap up.
All right, thank you, Sam. So someone in the chat asked a question which I also resonate with. The person, what the person said was basically, the Nigerian system, and we can extend this to other African countries, to be honest, seems to really stifle people trying to, young people trying to do really well, and they want to know how do we, and this is both male and female, how do we, succeed in this kind of, country, and that seems to really have a system that kind of holds people down. I mean, how do we align ourselves to the right opportunities? What do we do really from our end, without having to go out? How do we succeed where we are?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I told you I didn't know all things, and but I guess I would add, I think that's an organizational thing and a cultural thing. I noticed it while I was there. I mean, I served on a panel of 4 women for something else while I was there. And, it wasn't there. It was in the African Congress. We were down in Mauritius, but it was a man from Nigeria that during our panel of 4 women talked about how women were emotional and how women, weren't good leaders and how women this and women that. And so obviously I didn't let that pass. But I hope I did it in a nice way to just give him some things to think about. And of course, the audience did not support what he was saying, but he was saying it very sincerely. It wasn't like he was trying to be mean or ugly or anything. It was very sincere. And it came from his background and his experiences. And so I think this takes time. It takes small wins. It takes strategy and planning. It takes getting one person through the system that can help advocate for other people. It takes sometimes setting up a structure where you have a sponsor or something like that. It requires changing the dynamics of how an organization normally operates for people who have these biases to have these aha moments. And there are some organizations within Nigeria that do not hold you down. They're not all alike. And maybe some are at different phases than others. And it would be interesting to know when people like Thea and others, if, to be back in country, what that attitude is too, So I think being strategic about what changes there could be and how people interact and how decisions are made. And maybe that's not for this generation. If you look at the generational differences and how people view that, and how people who don't want to give up their position of power and control view that, right? I mean, let's just be real honest about that. They may know it's not fair, but they'd rather it change after their turn to have the position. And so I don't think there's any easy answer to it, but I do think strategically there's some things that can be done to help the decision making and the influence. It does take time. It took a long time here in the US.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Thank you. That's an answer. That's a strong answer. Thank you. All right, so I will just hand over to Ogogo to give the closing remarks.
Okay, I think before the closing remark that we have one question, right, Sam? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Olivia, for sharing your experiences. You know, my journal is like full right now, and I'm sure like it's going to take months for everyone to like digest and ruminate like all that we have heard today. So one question I have, there's this popular quote that says, no regrets in life, just lessons learned. So in the course of your journey, what have been like your biggest lessons learned, as well as opportunities for improvements?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think my biggest lesson learned was how much courage you have to have in the face of a crisis, and how resilient you have to be, and to not ever stop believing that you can make a difference, that you go to bed at night and you get up the next morning and you just work it one more time, and you call upon all your resources, and you get insights and help from people who have been through those situations before, many times when it may be your first experience. I've had 2 different corporate crises where I was in a leadership role for the board. One crisis took a full year to come out the other side, and we did. And it was a great win. And we learned some things through that we didn't know before. Deceptive practices, etc. Nothing really bad, but less than transparency, and how to better set up a system for transparency in some of those situations. But and then my latest crisis where, public opinion really went against the organization because of the bad actions of someone in leadership. And that a lot of people depend upon you to be a leader, not just in the good times, but when things are really bad. And that you just have to give it your all then. And you have to be brave and courageous and seek out the experts and do the right thing and go talk to people and develop trust and develop relationships and develop confidence that at least you, for your part, are going to do what's right. You are going to have the interest of others center stage, and that you understand that you are in a position of influence and privilege to lead people to the other side. It's kind of like crossing the Red Sea, right? You see those big walls of that water on either side of you, wondering if they're going to come crashing down any day. But you just keep putting one foot in front of the other and ask God for help and support and wisdom, and put the right people in your path, and know how many lives you're impacting if you fail. And that it may be hard on you, and it may be demanding, it may be exhausting, but it's your obligation and frankly your privilege to be able to lead through a bad time, as well as to get all the benefits of leading in a good time.
Oh, thank you so much. We're really out of time, and by the way, in Nigeria, I think it's like 8:30 p.m. right now, so I think we need to bring this to a close. But before we do that, Fee, do you have any last words?
All right. Yeah. First of all, I'd just like to thank Olivia. Thank you so much for the past 2 years. You've been amazing. Thank you for always just sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience with me, and for just, leadership in the image of God, technically, thank you so much. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this, to come speak with my friends, the team, everyone. We're really grateful. And I would say that I hope you come back again, even if we went over time. It'll be nice to have you again and again and again. I'd like to thank everyone, moderator Sam, Joshua, everyone that's worked behind the scene, awesome. Everyone that just made this possible. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the attendees. Without you all and the questions that you all just kept sending and asking, it wouldn't have been interactive as it was. I'm so grateful. I'll just pass it over to Tammy Williams. And Olivia, that's my sister, Tammy. She'll be praying and giving us a closing prayer. Thank you so much, everyone. Hope to do this again soon, and hope you guys will be back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Olivia. On behalf of the leadership of the Pastor Seed family, I'd like to say thank you so much. When Finny told me she had a mentor and told me about you, I didn't know you were such a powerful, godly woman, and so happy to be able to glean a little bit of your knowledge today. So the Inspiration Conference, like was mentioned by Joshua, is a conference to bring Christian people, Christian leaders in the workplace who have shown that you can be a Christian and a leader in the secular world at the same time. And this is the very first of its kind, and we'll be having a lot more to follow. So thank you so much for the organizers. Thank you so much, the organizers of this particular program. Thank you so much, all the participants. We will be calling back on you again to join us. And Olivia, we would love to have you sometime again. We're not sure when, but we hope that when we do call you on, you would respond to us. Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful session. We thank you for the wealth of knowledge that has been released upon us. We ask, oh God, that you bless our speaker, you increase her, you bless her family. And we pray for everyone who has participated in this conference, that Lord God Almighty, this will be a beginning of great things to come in our lives. Everybody here will be able to point back and say, you know, when I attended this inspiration conference, there was a word or something that I received from this that has changed or redirected the course of my life. That will be all our testimonies. In Jesus' precious name we've prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Olivia. Thank you so much.
Thank you
So much.
Thank you.
I want to give a shout out to all the technical crew that helped us with live streaming and designing the flyers. Tele, Pascal, thank you all so much. God bless you. Awesome. Joshua, thank you so much.
All right. So till next time. Bye from.
Till next time. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone. Till next time. Take care. Bye.